few days ago, I uploaded a video, Milo Down Under, with Milo Yiannopoulos being interviewed on Studio 10. Attacking Milo with a plethora of false accusations was self-proclaimed proud feminist, now becoming immortalised as the half-bald feminist, Australia's own Jessica Rowe. In that video, I described her as being as dumb as a doorpost, but I'm about to play a clip that, after watching it myself, I now realise that I was being far too kind to our friend Jessica. She is so unbelievably stupid, it's actually hard to comprehend the depth of stupidity that she's capable of descending to. Also vying for the "No, I'm more stupid than you are" award, but not quite succeeding, is a guest from news.com.au, which in itself should tell you everything you need to know, one Emma Reynolds. Whilst anchor Sarah Harris and Ida Buttrose try to take an oppositional stance on the garbage you're about to be witness to, they go nowhere near explaining to these two feminist echo heads why they are every bit as clueless as anyone sane that watches this video can plainly see that they are.
How much sex education is right for primary school kids?
Well, I believe at least that the answer to that is zero. But I'll explain why I believe that is as we progress. But as Sarah Harris announces this, listen to the sounds of disapproval from some of the sensible women in the studio audience.
A website in Belgium is teaching kids as young as 7 about techniques, positions, and even sex toys, and features very explicit drawings that we won't actually show on here.
Honestly, guys, this is just amazing. The operation of cultural Marxist logic for all to see. We're about to have a debate about a website that is promoted in Belgian primary schools that distributes sex education pamphlets to 7-year-olds. We're going to defend it by arguing that it was designed for 15-year-olds, even though it's being distributed to 7-year-olds. But we're not going to show it to you on Morning Housewife television to adults because it's too explicit. It's brilliant. It's just a masterstroke of dumbness.
The website is supported by the regional Flemish government. Parents are shocked, but the minister responsible says it's good to talk openly about sexuality without taboos.
To 7-year-olds.
It's our Daily Dilemma, and Emma Reynolds is here from news.com.au. Hello. I was blushing reading some of the content on this website, including a position called The Cave. Do we need to be teaching kids this sort of stuff, really?
Well, the organisation who created this website have defended it by saying kids are curious about sex and they are finding out about it younger and younger. But at the end of the day, I don't actually think that it's appropriate to be teaching children as young as 7 about techniques and positions. But the fact is that this was just a link that was included in a guide that was handed out in primary schools. It was actually intended to be aimed at 15-year-olds.
Yeah, and I think what you meant to say there, Emma, is that that's clearly absolute bullshit. Because if it was intended for 15-year-olds, why were they giving it out at a primary school? I mean, how many 15-year-olds are still in primary school? Like fucking duh.
And I'm just wondering if some of the outrage is because we are very frightened about children losing their innocence and being exposed to all these things. But the fact is there are far worse websites that they could find if they are allowed to go looking for things on the internet
themselves. Do you think a 7-year-old would be off looking for oral sex techniques?
I actually think that's possible.
Yeah, but here's the point that none of you, surprisingly or unsurprisingly, seem to go near. Where is it possible that a 7-year-old can see all of these worse websites on the internet? Well, I'll tell you where. In the house of a really irresponsible parent that should get a good fucking slap, if not charged, for allowing 7-year-olds on the internet. Also, what kind of excuse is it for directing 7-year-old children to lessons on sex acts and sex positions to say that kids could be exposed to worse sites? Great. Let's defend kids learning how to smoke crack cocaine and teach them how to use it, because after all, there could be worse drugs out there. I mean, that's the logic you're employing to make apologies for and defend the sexualisation of children.
I do. These days, I do think that people are hearing, the young children are hearing these kind of things.
Yeah, but
in
when
school.
the school's handing out links, even if it was inadvertent, I would be pretty miffed if my son came home with a document and it had a link to how to give the best blowjobs. I think that's completely inappropriate.
Well, I think, though,
Go on, Jessica. Prove to us all that you don't think, though.
Emma does make an interesting point that this has been around for 9 years.
Aha, checkmate, calendar.
And it's only now that we're hearing about the complaints, and it's been said that it's aimed at 15-year-old plus. And so schools are very particular with what information they give in terms of being very age appropriate.
It's been designed for 15-year-olds. It's being distributed to 7-year-olds, yet schools are very particular about the material they give out to make sure that it's age appropriate. Okay. But what seems really bizarre to me is that it's being reported that that's what's happening. The Belgian government is defending that it's happening, and your defence is that it's already been happening for 9 years, but actually it's not happening. You're such a brain park, Jessica.
So I wonder if 7-year-old children are being given these links. Yes, it could be 15-year-olds, but not 7-year-olds. And
See what I mean? She's arguing that it's not being distributed to 7-year-olds, even though,
The website is supported by the regional Flemish government.
honestly, Channel 10, why do you put this square wheel advocate on the air?
even though, Ita, as you say, you can't imagine kids looking for that, unfortunately, with the way the internet is, things come up with search engines
do you
and
think
things.
15
No, you're wrong. Things wouldn't come up during internet searches with my 7-year-old because my 7-year-old wouldn't be doing fucking internet searches, you fucking moron.
year-old, even still, even if they are that age, that our school teachers should be teaching them the art of a blowjob?
But I don't think they're not teaching them that. There might be a link about various...
And sexual positions?
But-
with explicit drawings?
But
Do our
I had a look
teachers
at
need to
that
do this?
stuff. Teachers aren't saying, have a look at this image, have a look at that image.
No, they're not saying, have a look at this image or that image. They're just handing out brochures at school, giving the kids the web address of where all those images are. Because that's not what brochures are for. They're not for promoting the things that are on the brochure. No, not in any way.
There'd be other content, and if
Why
there's
is
a
it
link...
included?
I think perhaps it was in a leaflet that was handed out in primary schools. So
Yeah.
the fact is that a child could have come across that information. But I think that the main priority needs to be worrying about whether we're teaching kids about safe sex, about birth
Yes.
control and about STDs. And I do think that should start from a young age because it's that safety side of it that's really the most crucial thing. And that's what...
Jesus Christ. The priority for 7-year-olds should be teaching them about safe sex, birth control, and STDs. Why would you imagine for 1 minute that it would be any sort of priority for children to have to learn about those things unless you thought that those 7-year-olds were, fucking wait for it, having sex? And where is a 7-year-old going to get an STD from? Don't tell me another 7-year-old. I mean, what you're really saying is that children really need to be worried about things that they're most likely to get from an adult. But, you know, let's teach them about it now at an early age, 6 or 7 years before they even reach fucking puberty. I mean, are we not listening to the biggest pedophile apologists on the face of the planet?
Not at
We should
seven.
worry.
No,
A
7-year-old
not
would
at
find it
seven.
terrifying
They don't
to be
even think
talking.
about sex at 7. I just don't buy it. Yeah, they don't think about it.
That's right, Ida. Correct. They don't think about it. Not unless these drooling Marxist pedophiles go out of their way to teach them about it and prime them for sexual activity.
I think schools should teach children reading, writing and arithmetic. Concentrate on the basics and get out of the bedroom.
So you don't think there should be any sort of sex education
Maybe
within schools?
In secondary schools, but certainly not in primary schools.
But what if that was introduced to a child by an older child? You know, it's something that maybe they should be prepared for in some way. Maybe you can teach them in a gentle way.
Something like this.
Yeah. What if I bring an older child to act as kind of like a bridge, a go-between, between the adult that wants to have sex with the child and the child themselves? Surely then that would be an excuse to teach the child about sex. Am I right?
Happens, you come and talk to me about it. You've got to have a trust relationship between the child and the parent. And parents need to take responsibility. You know, it's the same thing. You say to your child, if a stranger approaches you, come and tell me. If somebody asks you to do something inappropriate, like touch your bottom or anything like that, come and tell me. And if you don't establish that trust with your child, you're letting your child down.
Well, in some ways, without even realising it, Ida, you've hit on the problem. The state itself is undermining the protection that parents naturally give to their children and undermining the relationships between parents and children by going out of its way to teach children how to get touched on the bottom. The problem with your own airhead statement, though, is that you're sounding like the parents are somehow to blame. But it's not the parents that are pushing this safe schools type sex education bullshit. It's the family-destroying cultural Marxists that have infiltrated and infected education all the way down from academia to kindergarten. And for what other purpose can it be other than to destroy society that you would, on the one hand, try to crush adult men's sexual attraction to women by complaining that for a man to look at women sexually is objectification, and profess that it's sexism for men to objectify women sexually, but then on the other hand, advocate for young children to learn about sex to the extent that you hand kids brochures with links to websites that show children all the different positions they can try out. What I find extraordinarily revealing in these two femtards as well, particularly Jessica Rowe, who has children of her own, is that she doesn't seem to think that there's anything untoward about 7-year-olds surfing the internet unsupervised, and she doesn't have a problem with young children receiving sex education at that age. I mean, think about it. Why don't we teach children how to drive a car, given that they'll be driving in the future? And the reason we don't teach them at 7 how to drive a car is because they're not going to be driving a car at age 8. They're going to be driving a car at 17. That's why we teach them when they're 16. Why does a school start teaching kids about sex when they're 7? So that they can start participating and practicing at age 8, of course. Isn't it obvious?